Taut sewing is a technique we use to control the layers of fabric as we stitch them together. It's very common, if you use no taut sewing technique at all, for the presser foot to push the top layer forward while the feed dogs underneath are grabbing the underlayer and pulling it backwards, causing puckering in the underlayer. In a long drapery seam, this can cause quite a bit of take-up on a lining seam and cause problems. And it's not something that you should assume that you can iron out. The most common form of taut sewing is to simply grasp the fabrics both behind the presser foot and out in front of it, and hold them taut as they feed through under the machine. This is effective most of the time, but there are instances in which the underlayer is so thin that even that light taut sewing doesn't do enough to prevent the puckering. So we have to go to a more aggressive form of taut sewing. For this, we tighten up the fabrics out in front. You put your thumb underneath, your fingers on the top, and you wrap your hand around. This gives you a lot of good tight control of all the layers. Again, we grasp it behind the presser foot. As we're stitching, we are not pulling the fabric through. We are simply keeping it taut and allowing the machine to set the speed. As you sew, as your hand gets closer to the presser foot, resist the urge to unroll and continue sewing. What that does is now we don't have the same control over the fabric, and if we continue to sew, we could get puckering in this space. So stitch up to your hand, then stop and stretch it again. And there's the difference. We have no puckering. I strongly encourage you to learn these taut sewing techniques to eliminate the steps of pinning layers together or glue basting your layers together and becoming more efficient in your sewing while at the same time learning an excellent technique that controls the fabric. There are instances when even aggressive taut sewing will not eliminate the puckering, such as if you are stitching a heavy braid or a thicker fabric banding onto a thinner fabric. Even if you've pinned it, it may still want to pucker on the back. In those particular cases, try stitching from the other side. Put the thinner fabric on the top and let the presser foot smooth it out as it sews. The feed dogs underneath won't be able to grab and crunch the thicker fabric or banding on the other side. You will probably even be able to see or feel where the thicker fabric banding is when you're sewing to allow you to sew very accurately. And you get a very nice smooth finish without any puckering, front or back.